So okay, so I'll be getting started right into it. So as always, if you have any questions, drop it in the chat box, and yeah, basically that's it. So let me share my screen. Also, you have any question regarding everything we've talked about so far, you can just ask so that we can wrap up that session to ensure you guys understand what we went through. So yeah, project management in UIUX, right? So so let's adjourn. So basically, we've covered different aspects under project management in UIUX, and today we'll be talking about the different design processes that we have and beyond design thinking. So I'm sure every one of us here at one point in time have heard about different design processes. Like it's one of the most important aspects of, as a designer, you need to know. Like take for instance, if you get called up for an interview, one of the foremost questions you'll be asked by your interviewer, by the recruiter is, okay, what's your design process, right? So a lot of us just, because we've heard of this design process here, this design process, we don't actually understand, okay, how does this thing work? When should I use this design process? When should I not use design process? So basically, we need to understand what each design process is for and the place they are applicable. So let's get right into it. So talking about different design processes. So a lot of times we all talk about design processes, but we don't really understand how they work or what they are. So talking to a recruiter, one of the foremost things you can be asked is, okay, what's your design process? So basically, in the design world, we have around 3 major design processes being used: design sprint process and design thinking process. So now we have 3 processes, right? We gotten derived from design thinking. So the other 2 were derived from design thinking. Everyone just try to bring out something and add to make it to bring about the other processes. So the foremost 2 were derived and gotten from design thinking. So let's see what is that double diamond process is talking about. So double diamond process is a framework developed by the British Design Council. Yeah, the Design Council surveyed creative from all around the world, and despite many of them having different ways of working, they noticed and captured some shared commonalities of the creative process across disciplines. Initially, I told you, if you've been following through the sessions, I said being a creative is not really a designer. A developer can be a creative, a marketer can be a creative, as long as you are creative and you can innovate and you can think with your own mind, then you are a creative person. You don't have to be a designer to be a creative. Now, the result of this was the double diamond process. That was a structured map that visualizes the process, though it's equally applicable to most forms of problem solving, but it's divided into 4 distinctive phases. You have the discover phase, the define phase, develop, and deliver. Now, initially I said that we are talking about 3 major design processes, right? We have the double diamond, we have the Google design sprint, and we have the design thinking. Now, these are basically like processes or approaches to solving like a problem. Now that's taken. Now, the double diamond process is a very, very interesting one. Let's move to the next slide. Now, this model is talking about coming. So now the double diamond process maps out this process, the divergent and convergent stages of a design process. Now, if you look at the diagrams by my left hand side, you will see that, okay, you have this double diamond. That's why it's called the double diamond, because there is a convergent and a divergent. Now, divergent in the sense that you spread out your ideas. That's you leave a particular point. The one is talking about leaving a particular point and just leaving that point. While convergent is coming to a point. So you being divergent, you are exploring ideas, you are finding out, you are researching, you are going wild with your ideas. And later on, you come at the point to meet together where you get access to a common truth that you found. Now, that's what the diamond process is all about. So at the beginning, what it does is that you have to discover and define. Now, at the discover stage, that's when you carry out your research, you can see that this discover stage is kind of like, it has a lot of things inside, not just discover alone. When you're discovering, you're carrying out research, you are meeting people, you are having interviews and all that. Now, that is what we're trying to find out, okay, what is actually the problem? How can we solve this problem? So the development process maps the divergent and the convergent stages of a design process. It describes modes of thinking that designers use. So at the beginning, the designer first discovers, you are handed over a project to do, and the first thing you have to do is to discover, okay, what are the things I need to know about this project? What are the things I need to know about this project? Now, the council's original, now for the double design, as I said, double diamond process was gotten from design thinking, and it was mapped out by the British Design Council. Now, these guys originally, their originality is, their roots is from industrial design. Now, when we're talking about industrial design, we can be talking about sculpturing, we can be talking about painting, we can be talking about anything design. It doesn't have to be product design, it doesn't have to be interface design, right? Now, their origin was what? Industrial design, where they deal with physical objects. As we all know, digital design is what is talking about digital things. That's the software products and the likes. But these guys, their origin was what? Industrial design. Now, as such, the model seems like a linear process, but it's not. So it describes significant upfront design. So what they do is that they get an upfront design, just like what we do, we make use of low-fi design, low fidelity design, sketches to map out what we're trying to work on. So we don't just go straight into fidelity, into high fidelity. We try to bring out the skeleton of what we're trying to work on. That's the same thing these guys were working on. So they created an upfront design before going to produce a final solution. So working this way means that the solutions are generally perfected before public release. That's because it's expensive to change a physical product after it has been shipped. So I think I said in one of the classes that initially that it is very easy to create a design. It's very easy to create a product. It's very easy to change a product before production than changing a product and fixing a product after production. That is the same model they used here. So their own model was to, okay, let's create something that it looks like what we're going to create, but let's just create like a prototype, let us create like a upfront design. That upfront design was so once they create that upfront design, they say, okay, this is how this thing is. Should we go with it or not? Then they talk over, they iterate on it, and then they come up with a final design and release it to the public. So that's how basically they work. So another effect of is that a lot of time passes before knowing its efficacy in the real market. Now, what he's talking about is that since they are coming with an upfront design, it may take much time, right, before they actually push it out into the market. But the fact here is that they create an upfront design, and that's what works for them. Now, that model is being used even by digital designers today. So not everyone follows the same process of empathy, blah, blah, blah. I'll talk about that because that it's now a cliche now in the design industry that we need to really address. So if you look at my left-hand side, you see the double diamond process, talking about the problem and the solution. So you attack the problem, you face the problem by defining that problem. You have the discover phase and the defining phase to define out what that problem is all about. Then doing the right thing and then doing it right. So you execute as well. Then if you look at it, you have discover, you have define. And in between them, you have the problem definition. That's where you get your design brief. And from there, you start bringing out, I think we talked about design briefs. That's product briefs, rather. Product briefs, I think that was the last session we had. So I'm sure you guys understand what product brief. So for that product brief, we started defining, okay, what are the things that I need to include in this product? What are the things I don't need in this product? What are the things that this product is demanding for? What are these people's pain points? Because as for a product, you have your particular target audience. You can't have everyone as your target audience. So target audience is basically like a niche of people, like, okay, a particular set of people that you are delivering to. You can't deliver to everybody. That's for sure. Like, take for instance, the games today, game applications today, it's not for everybody. You can't see a man of 90 years or 70 years or 60 years playing games. It's not his thing because he has gone past that. So everyone has their particular set audience, right? So now once you define all that, then you move on to start developing and then you deliver. That is the double diamond process, which is still in existence today and even being used in the design industry. Then we have the now, because this this model was being used by those who doing physical products, and people found out that, okay, if we keep on using this style, right, it won't actually work well, because a lot of time will be wasted before this product is being pushed into the market. So they decided to come up with a new flow, which is understanding, defining, then exploring and creating. So they created a new double diamond process. That's, people just came up with that. But the former one still works, only that you have to push away that variable of you taking time before it's being pushed out, right? So at this one, you understand the product first, you define it, then you explore, and then you create. So the double diamond process simply is about understanding the product. I'm always saying that it's very, very important. Before you embark on any project, you have to understand what that product is all about. Not only the product, also understand the niche, right? Let's say you're working on a banking application. Now, a banking application is a fintech application. It's a fintech product. You have to understand how fintech works. What are the basic fintech like actions that are being carried out in a bank, in a banking application? So those are the things you have to really understand before you actually go into designing or into working on this project. So let's move to the next slide. So how do you apply the double diamond process? So it makes use of two thinking process, two types of thinking. You have a divergent thinking where a lot of ideas are created, and the convergent thinking where ideas are narrowed down, refined to the best idea. That's how double diamond process works, basically. So then together, these are represented by two diamonds, one for identifying what the problem is and one for the solution. So use the first diamond to understand and identify what that problem you're trying to solve is. Understand, okay, who are my target audiences? Who am I solving this problem for? And what will this what will be the impact of this product on the lives of people? Then the next one for solution as well. Then you start with the solution. You start working, you start creating, right? You start developing, you start delivering. Then it's most useful when running processes. When a longer running processes, it's more useful when a longer running process and a broad canvassing of ideas is required. So that's when you are working on a very long process compared to like a design sprint. So working through every step of the diamond is not particularly useful when you are dealing with a situation where the result is mostly known. And so this is trying to tell you that design processes are being used when you actually don't know where you're going to, right? When you don't know when you don't know, like, what am I going to expect? If you already know what to expect, then I don't think there's a need to actually do all these things. That's why sometimes I say a lot of things. People usually say this on online, on internet, on social media and all, that most people, let's say you want to create a case study. I've seen that work many times. I've seen that what people have done many times. You want to create a case study, you just formulate a research data or research information and just put it up there and say you created a case study. But you didn't actually carry out those things. You don't actually carry out research. You don't actually talk to people. And that is what usually happens here. So if you already know what you're actually going to, you already know the results. There's no point in doing that stuff. There's no point, because if you already know the solution, then why bothering yourself to say you want to start solving a problem? There's no point. So the purpose of carrying out this process, this design process, is to get to an end point. You actually don't know where I start. You don't actually know what to expect, but you know, okay, this is what I'm aiming toward at. I don't actually know what to expect, but so I'm aiming towards at, and I need to do this. And so it's from the insights you get from your data that you are able to work on these things. So let me say it again. If you already know what you are expecting, there's no point in going into these processes. Just arrive at your answer straight up. Just like when you're in let me use this instance. When maybe let's say you are in secondary school back then, and maybe a teacher gave you an assignment and later gave you as a test. You already crammed the answer, or you just put the answer at the bottom. There's no point then. Then that means that, and for you to know, you surely know that will be zero, because the child is not seeing your solutions, he's not seeing those things. So that will be automatic zero. Same thing is applicable here. If you already know where you arrive at, there's no point actually doing those things, because it's a waste, and nobody will really like, because if you are told to come and perform in real life scenarios, you won't be able to do anything. So basically, it's very, very important that you take through all these processes and you understand what they're all about. So the first stage here is discover. As I said before, that's where you carry out your research. You ask questions. This is where you understand what the product is all about. Now, if you are in a particular, let's say you are working on a project, a big time project, not just a personal project, what you do here is as for you to discover, you understand what the problem is, what the problem of that product is all about. Then you allow the stakeholders, probably the developers, probably the PMs, probably even the owner of the product itself. Okay, you have to ask some questions that you ask them. What is this product going to do? What is the purpose of this product? What are the KPIs you're expecting on this product? Like the key performing indicators, those things, they are very, very important. Then you discover, then you define the problems, you define who are your target audience, you define the scope of that product. A savings platform is not a payment platform, it's not a transferring platform, it's not for use for other stuffs. It's basically for savings. So you define that scope of that product, then you develop, and then you start working on your low fidelity design, your sketch and all that. Then lo-fi design, then you deliver. Deliver is including your handoffs to developers, you're getting feedback from them on how, and also collaborating with them on how the products can fly. So that's basically it. Then the next one is Google Design Sprint. I'm sure we talked about this. That was last class. Yes. So if you've not watched that, you can go to, I think it's on YouTube already. So Google Design Sprint is a process invented by Google Ventures to accelerate decision making and reduce risk in strategic projects. And this framework is based on understanding of design thinking. Now, I think that was last class. I was going to ask the difference between design thinking and design sprint. So I said I will answer it in this class because I don't want to start creating images of your mind that you'll be feeling confused. So the better for us to address it here. Now, okay, I'll still get to design thinking anyways. So this design sprint, it's a framework that was created by Google based on design thinking. So everyone is creating their own framework because they're trying to create a framework based on what works for them. Not everyone can use design thinking. So they are just adding some things to favor how they work, their own workflow, and that's basically what guides them in their own processes. So it's a 6-phase activity which includes understand, define, sketch, decide, prototype, validate, and test. It is usually done in 3 to 5 days, but it can be more than that to the limit of no more than 4 weeks. So you cannot, once your sprint is already getting to more than 4 weeks, it's no more a sprint anymore, right? So it should be done in very, very short time. So refer more to design sprint process in module 6. Yeah, so you see it there. So basically, I said it can be done in 3 to 5 days. So what they basically do, that what Google does is that on Monday, you pick it's a 5-day process. So you pick from Monday to Friday, then you make a map, that's make a structure of how you want your work to flow. Then you start sketching, then you decide, then you build a realistic work, then you test the target audience. That's how basically Google works, right? So and this is, I told you when you use design sprint is done at the beginning of a project, of a product, or when you are having a blocker and you can't move forward. So, okay, let everyone come and understand how this project will work. That's when you use design sprints. So you can refer more to module 6. So next up is what is design thinking. So this is one of the most important aspects of today's class. So what is design thinking? Now, we have some common myths about design thinking, that design thinking only applies to digital product design, and that design thinking is design, and that design thinking is a linear process, and that design thinking is a theory. Just like you have your theories in secondary school, in your textbooks, yeah. Is it Ohm's law? Is it this law? For those who are in sciences, it's not a theory, right? So I'll be explaining in depth what design thinking is. So it doesn't really apply to digital product design. It doesn't really apply to it's not design, it's not a linear process, and it's not a theory. So you can even see that from double diamond process, those guys were doing they're making physical objects. And double diamond process was derived from design thinking. For you to know that, okay, yeah, design thinking is not about digital product design, and it's not design, and it's not a linear process, and it's not a theory. So now, what is design thinking? Design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of the people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. This was its definition by Tim Brown, executive chair at IDEO. Now, IDEO is a big design agency, well respected in the world. So he crafted out this word, that design thinking is a human-centered approach. Now, see, not those words that are in bold letters. It is a human-centered approach. So it's not a process, actually a process, it's an approach. to what? To solving a particular problem. It's an approach to innovation, to creating things, an approach to what? To bringing about new things that draws from designer's toolkit. Now, as a designer, talking about designer's toolkit here is what you use to make what you are doing. Now, for a designer, I use Figma, I use XD, I use Sketch and all that. So you're using a centered approach, drawn from your use of this of these tools to integrate needs for people. So you're making use of Figma, making use of XD, making use of Sketch to solve people's problem. That's what design thinking is trying to tell us. So it is a human-centered approach to innovation, right, that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. So basically, it gives us the possibility of something happening or something not happening. That is also talking about what we discussed one of our previous classes, that as a designer, you have to also work with the developer, trying to know what works and what does not work. Because sometimes it's not as if that thing cannot work, but that is not the capability of your developer at that moment. So you have to respect what he can do at that point and try to reshape on things. That's what it's trying to tell us here. So design thinking is actually very broad. It's a human-centered approach to innovation, right? That draws from the designer's toolkit. Your toolkit, your design tools, everything you use for design, it draws it from that. Design thinking makes you use those things with making use of a human-centered approach to integrate the needs of people, to solve people's problem, and making sure that everything you are doing is possible, right, with and the requirements for business success. So everything is revolving around the success of a business. I think I've said it. I don't know if I've said it before. As a designer, if you are working as a designer, your main goal is to generate revenue for the product you are working on, right? It's not just for just design and just throw it away. No, the main purpose of you doing something is to generate revenue for that business you're working for or for that client you're working for, right? That's when you are really a designer. You're not a designer to just make money, you're a designer to solve people's problem, right? So, so the word design thinking today has been used and overused by many individuals without actually knowing how it works or what it means. So design thinking is more like a toolbox rather than a process to solving problems, right? It's more like a toolbox. It's more like a tool that you're using, right? A toolbox rather. So a toolbox contains a lot of tools, right? It contains a lot of tools that you can use to solve problems. So a toolbox, in that toolbox, you have your Figma, you can have your creativity, you can have all that. But design thinking is the house for everything. It's like a manual guiding you. Okay, this is how this should work. This should not work. You remember I said it's a human-centered approach, right, to solving problems. Human-centered approach, making use of the designer's toolkit to integrate people's problems, to integrate solving problems for people and all that. So it is more like a toolbox rather than just a process of solving problems. Now, a lot of people term design thinking as empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test. It's not very wrong, it's correct, but design thinking is more than this. Design thinking is what? It's more than just empathizing, just defining, just ideating, just prototyping, and just testing. Okay, let's move on. So truth is, design thinking is more than just the usual empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. It is more of understanding, defining, ideating, testing, prototyping, critiquing, implementing, optimizing, right? Now, what he is trying to tell us is that now it's not only, let me even say this, design thinking, it's not only applicable to just digital design, it's applicable to any field in the world, right? A lot of people are still researching to find out, okay, what are the possibilities of design thinking in various fields? Because design thinking is a very vast field, not just in design alone. It's more than just in design, right? I told you about those who were making use of who created the double diamond process from the way they're just working on, they're just industrial designers, right? And it spans even more than just design. Now you have to understand what you're working on, understand the project you're working on. You have to define, you have to ideate, you have to test, you have to prototype, You have to, now you may be wondering why is testing come before prototyping. Is because at the period where you are after understanding, you define your process, then you ideate, then you have to test it with real people to see, okay, how will this thing work? You test your prototype, then you critique. Now critiquing is like having a collaborative session. If you look at it, design thinking is about understanding people. And to understand people, you need to like know what people are saying about something. If you work on a product, try it out with people and see, okay, sorry, what do you think about this? That's where that critiquing comes in, and that collaboration comes in. You worked on a product, you're at a particular stage and you're saying, okay, let me first even see what my PM is talking about here. Let me see what this guy is talking about here. Let me see what this guy feels about what I'm working on. So you're not working in isolation, right? You're working with people. You're working to understand. That's why I said initially that even if as a freelancer, as you're working on a client's project, there will be some call-up times you have with your client. Okay, come and see how far I've gone. So that you won't have worked from A to Z, and later you will say, no, I don't like this thing. And you start iterating all over it because it can be very, very annoying. So the best thing is that carry them along at each stage and at each point in time. So it's because it's really help you. So design thinking is more, there are many things that we don't know is design thinking actually, because we actually don't know it is, right? So critiquing your work is part of a design thinking approach, right? It's not a process. It's not like a toolbox. It's not like an approach to solving a particular problem. So after understanding and defining and ideating and testing and prototyping, then you have to make sure it is critiqued. Let people see what you're working. Let people critique your work, and then you can go back for iteration. Then you have implementing and optimizing. That's optimizing the experience. Continue iterating. There's no finished product anywhere. Every product is continuously being worked on every day. When I was kind of thinking about it one day. If Google is already a big company, a big tech company, why do they still have employees? Right? Now, the point is, what those people are doing, some people say, these guys are not doing anything. They're just sitting in their office, collecting salary, and just enjoying themselves. But the truth is that these guys are continuously iterating, continuously making researches on how they can make this product better. They're continuously seeing things that they can continuously do to make people's life easier. So there's no perfect product. No perfect product. Every product needs continuous iteration. As the world evolves, as tech evolves every day, new things are coming out. People must be aware of, and people must integrate into their products. If not, they'll be left. They'll be as if they are still in the 20th or 19th century. So that's why everyone is trying to keep up with the tech trends and everything that is going on every day. So that's why it's important for you to keep on optimizing your product. And that is what design thinking is talking about here. So it is not just the usual empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Right? It is more of, and it's not a linear process. It's a continuous process, a looping process. So, and one thing people say, or one thing people think is, once I've done that, I must always go through every process. It's not a must. Right? It's not a must. It's not a must. Sometimes you may not have to go through the ideating process because probably someone has done the ideating process for you already. I've seen that when a client, okay, will say, I've already drawn the sketches for you, just help me just create high fidelity. So, but even at that, you have to first understand a product. There's some processes that you can't actually jump over. There's some processes that you can actually jump over based on what you're actually working on. So it's not every time that you have to follow that 5-method process, that 5 long process. In those 5 long processes, there are still more broken down processes. This is not even everything. There are still more processes that you might not actually even know, or might not actually have to even know the name of to even give them. But basically, you're carrying out a lot of things that you actually don't know. Right? So it is more than just the usual empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. There are a lot of processes still embedded in each of them, right? So you have to understand the products you're working on. You have to define it, define the scope and all that, ideate on it. That's sketch, you bring out wireframes, you test the concept and all. Then you prototype and then you critique. Now the critiquing here is talking about you showing concepts to various people. I don't call it design, I call it concept. It's a concept because it can easily change. It's a concept. Let this search bar be here. Let this filter be here. It's a concept. So it's something that it's still a work in progress. It's not actually being done. So it can still change. You show them, they critique that, and then implementation is done and optimization as well. So you keep on optimizing your design for better performance. So that's why you see that sometimes you see a lot of reviews on Play Store on Apple Store based on people's comments on some particular products. And those people take those comments and work on those comments and try to make their product better. That's all the truth. So the most important thing to note is in design thinking is one, problem solving, human-centeredness. First of all, you are creating for humans before they are even users. You should create for humans. Now, the design thinking, there was this, okay, I think there was this story I read about. This lady was to create, I think she was to create a chair or something. So creating a chair, see, it even works, it's more than just design. Like constructing a chair, you have to have the design thinking also applicable there. You have to understand, okay, can 3 legs stand? Okay, cannot stand, let's put 4 legs. That was how those things. So people have been doing design thinking for a long time, but they never knew that they were using design thinking, right? So design thinking is mainly solving people's problem and making sure that, yes, it works. It works, and it serves the purpose for which it was created. Now, if I create a two-legged chair, it will not stand. Let me try 3. It can't stand. Let me try 4. Okay, it stands. It works. So basically, and also not only just a seat, they put a backrest as well, because they understood that, yeah, when this person sits down, he wants to rest his back. Now, these are what design thinking helps you do. So you cannot design thinking, you think far ahead. Okay, this is what is likely to happen when this person is using this product. What should happen when this happens? So basically, you are looking far, right? You are a human first before you should think about humans first before you think about users. The users are humans, yeah, but think about their humanity first, because humanity will help you understand their emotions and those things that surround them, their environment and all, right? So then you have creativity and innovation, then informed decision making. That's making your research and all, then iteration and practice. So design thinking is actually a practice. It's like an activity, right? It's not just a process. So as you practice more, you understand how design thinking is all about. So it's more than just you empathize, you define your ideas and prototype and test. It's more than just that. As you practice daily, as you iterate more on your work, you have to understand, okay, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And design thinking becomes more clearer to you. No one can actually grasp the full length and breadth of design thinking because it keeps on evolving. People keeps on saying more things every day because it's very wide. So the most important thing you should note is that design thinking is meant for what? For solving problem, right? It's meant for solving problem. Then it focuses on humans, on human-centeredness, on using a human-centered approach. Not just like, a robot. Just people are creative for robots. They are humans, they have emotions, they have feelings, right? So you have to make sure you are building for them. Then use your creativity and innovation. Like I talked about, they're taking far. That okay, it is first of all, people were first creating normal stools. Then they saw stools can make your back very sore. Then they started creating this backrest for chairs, and that's how things are evolving every day, right? So basically, that is work of design thinking because it makes you see far. That okay, this is what I can do to make people's life better. Then informed decision making, from kind of research from people, you can understand, okay, this is what, and this is how we should make this product be. Then iteration, keep on working your design based on the feedbacks you get from people, based on the feedbacks you get from your research. Then you keep on practicing. Those are the ways in which you can get more into design thinking. Then next, talking about beyond design thinking, right? Now, thinking like a designer can transform the way organizations develop products, services, processes, and strategy. Now, this approach, which is known as design thinking, brings together what's desirable from a human point of view with what is technologically feasible and economically viable. So design thinking still boils down to the point where we talk about business requirement of the business, right? So we still have to what? It's still talking about you creating more for the business. I don't know if any of us have a service design, but that's on that question. That's on that topic on its own. But basically, you are trying to make sure that you are serving the business as well as serving the users. Beyond design thinking, you're thinking beyond normal design thinking. It allows people who aren't trained as designers to use creative tools to address a vast range of challenges. So it's not just for designers, as I've said before. Anyone can use design thinking based on their thinking ability, and everyone can think. So yeah, everyone can use design thinking. You get. So now, even those who are not designers can also use design thinking. Someone, a law student, a medical student, anyone, just anyone can use design thinking, as long as the person has a creative mind, that person has a mind of his own, right? So design thinking uses creative approaches, so creative activities to foster collaboration and solve problems in human-centered ways. So the boiling point of everything is to solve human problem. Beyond design thinking, beyond just normal design thinking, the sweet spot of innovation, right? The sweet spot of innovation is what? Is to ensure that you solve problems for users, you solve people's problems. That is the point of everything. So it uses creative activities to foster collaboration and solve problems in human-centered ways. So we adopt a beginner's mind with the intent to remain open and curious, to assume nothing and to see ambiguity as an opportunity. So if you look at this diagram here, it's talking about desirability, viability, and feasibility. So design thinking helps you see, okay, this product, is it desirable? This product, is it viable? And this product, is it feasible? Now, desirability is talking about the people need this product actually. That's you thinking far, right? And thinking far, you make use of research, you ask people questions and all those things. Then viable, will these products fly? Will this scale? Do people now, from based on your desirability, you need to know, okay, is this product viable? If people are saying they don't need this product, then there's no point in the viability of that product. That product will not scale, it will never scale. That's one thing. Then feasibility, is this technologically possible, right? So these are things you need to consider as part of your design thinking. As part of when I say you're design thinking, you're not just doing the normal empathize, do this and that. You are thinking far, right? So you think about the desirability of that product. Do people desire it? You're trying to create let's say you're trying to create a food ordering application, right? A food ordering application. Are people interested in that food application? Is this solving anybody's problem? Do people desire those things? Then if they desire those things, then there'll be a viability surely, because it can fly, it can scale, because people are in high demand of that thing. Then is it feasible? Based on the environment, let's say, take for instance, when you're going to do your research, it is not motorable. Like that place, the road is not motorable. Is it feasible to know if you take your business elsewhere or something? So you need to check all those things. They are very, very important in helping you being a good designer at design thinking. Then we live and work in a world of interlocking systems where many of the problems we face are dynamic, multifaceted, and inherently human. So take up some big questions being asked by businesses, governments, educational and social organizations. How will we navigate the disruptive forces of the day, including technology and globalism? How will we grow and improve in response to rapid change? How can we effectively support individuals while simultaneously changing big systems? For us, design thinking offers an approach for addressing these and other big questions. So design thinking is being used in different fields, even in medical field. Those who make research on, okay, how can we tackle COVID-19? How can we tackle Ebola? How can we tackle this disease? They apply design thinking processes, just that they don't know it's called design thinking, right? So design thinking, it's an approach to solving problem. You have to be human first, because you're building for humans, not just I'm a designer, I want to make money. No, because you have emotions. When you're building for to have emotions, you have to apply those emotions into what you're bringing out as a product. So I'm sure you can see it from here. For us designers, design thinking offers an approach for addressing these and other big questions. So all the big questions you have in your mind, the government questions, the healthcare questions, the educational questions, all these things, the simple approach to every one of them is to make use of design thinking. And that's what has been used even up to now, even though they might not know that's what's being used, but it's being used in most industries, in most sectors of the world, right? So you can see you diverge. If you look at it in the double diamond process, you diverge, then you converge. So you diverge to create choices, you diverge to seek for answers, you diverge to make researches, you diverge to do a lot of things, then you converge to make your choices. Okay, let's go with this solution. Okay, let's go with this one. Okay, let's see how this one will make our product fly. So basically, we are diverging and converging at the same time. Diverging to look for answers, diverging to make research, diverging to create choices, and then converge to make what? To make those choices. So, so to think like a designer requires dreaming up wild ideas, taking time to think and test, and being willing to fail early and often. So the designer's mindset embraces empathy, optimism, iteration, creativity, and ambiguity. And most critical design thinking, most critically, design thinking keeps people at the center of every process. It keeps humans at the center of every process because they are the ones you are creating for. You're not creating a product for dogs. You're not creating a product for snakes, for animals. You're creating for human beings. So human-centered designer knows that as long as you stay focused on the people you're designing for and listen to them directly, you can arrive at optimal solutions that meet their needs. So, as I said, the main purpose of design thinking, the central point of everything, is to solve problems for your users, for human beings. Your users are first human beings before they are users. Before anybody picks up your phone to start interacting with the digital product, he's first a human being. He has feelings, he has emotions. And the only way to understand them is to meet them. Don't try to understand someone. Don't assume you understand. Don't assume, you want to get a case study and you're assuming this person here, this is what this person will say. No. Until you actually meet them and know what they're thinking, you can actually know what they're thinking. So the main purpose of design thinking is to solve problems for people, is to solve people's problems, to make their life easier. And that's why it's been applied in various fields of the world, in medicine, in education, in different fields, right? So anyone can approach the world like a designer, right? Anyone can approach the world like a designer, but to unlock this greater potential and to learn how to work as a dynamic problem solver, creative confidence is key. So you just need to open up your mind to really understand how this thing works. So I hope we all understood that. So basically, that's all for that. So any questions? I'll be taking questions now. Okay. So if you have any questions, just drop them so that I will address them. Any questions based on what we've touched so far? So is there a prescribed time or maximum time that a design thinking process should be? Nope. There is compared to what design sprints, you might be on design thinking process for months, for weeks, for years. So these people, like, let's say medical personnel, or let's say a research person in the medical field is researching on how to find vaccine for a particular disease or something. It takes a very long time. It can take years, right? So there's no confined time to design thinking. As long as you can solve for people, you can actually relieve people of their pains and all, then